Good morning, Boston. Okay, my friends, a lot to talk about today. But I've got to tell you, now, whether it's the ruling on student loans, whether it's the website designer, whether it's free speech, whether it's religious liberty, whether it's you just run down literally case after case after case. There is no question about it. The Biden regime is now getting smacked down by the Supreme Court as well as by the federal judiciary. This is a rogue presidency that is clearly out of control. And one of the biggest stories over the last couple days, it took place on July 4th, of all days, very symbolic, was a ruling by a U.S. district judge, which you want to talk about rebuking the Biden regime on the 4th of July, Independence Day. And much of this was lost because of the huge story regarding cocaine in the White House, Hunter Biden, and now likely that that's his cocaine. And the Secret Service now being pressured to try to change their story in order to cover up for Hunter. U.S. District Court Judge Terry Doughty has now ruled in favor, or to be more specific, has granted an injunction, a preliminary injunction. Essentially, he is siding with the states of Missouri and Louisiana. And in particular, this is the key point, those two states have taken the Biden regime to court. Why? Because they are alleging, and according to the judge, they have now conclusively proven that the Biden regime and officials of the Biden administration have, in the words of the judge, engaged in the most massive attack on free speech in the United States history. Quote, the actions described in this by the plaintiffs and the evidence that they have presented shows that the most, arguably, this is the most massive attack against free speech in United States history. And what Missouri and Louisiana and other plaintiffs have now shown is that Facebook, Twitter, Google, big tech were ordered, coerced, or pressured by the Biden regime, and I'm going to get to this in detail in a couple of minutes, to specifically target conservatives. This was targeted censorship, targeted suppression of conservatives, dissenters, conservative views, anybody who went against the narrative established by the Biden administration. And so, in a 155-page memorandum where he lays out all of the evidence, this is the judge. It is conclusive, it is comprehensive, it is irrefutable. What it shows is senior Biden administration officials, including top aides to the president himself, directly pressured big tech, Facebook, Twitter, Google, you name it, into silencing Americans, into suppressing their views, into preventing their views from being shown or admitted or laid out for viewers or people who want to read them, their posts, because they opposed the narrative of the administration. And in particular, what the judge shows in his ruling, I mean, this is a stunning ruling, is that top Biden administration officials directly contacted Twitter and Facebook and told them any tweet, any post that challenges the Biden laptop, Hunter Biden laptop, if you say that it's authentic and that it's not Russian disinformatio, take it down. It goes on, example after example after example after example. So, and you really have to read the memorandum to really get the full impact of first of all, the chilling evidence that the Missouri, Louisiana, other states have marshaled. But just to give you a taste, there are senior Biden administration officials who were telling Twitter, Facebook, Google, others what information on global warming is considered acceptable, what information on global warming or arguments are considered unacceptable. When everything is said and done, as the judge points out in his conclusion, every time a post was told to be taken down, every time a tweet was taken down, it was every time 100%. It was a conservative viewpoint. It was a conservative individual, a conservative viewpoint. It was a conservative position. This was a clear violation of the First Amendment. This is clear government-run censorship, and they were doing it to target and suppress anything that went against the Biden regime. My friends, we have a dictatorship running our country. Okay, my friends, a landmark decision in many, many ways, but also an unbelievable slap in the face to the Biden regime. And the media is melting down. Democrats are going berserk. Liberals are losing their mind, because now I've never seen a judge ever slap down a president the way this Judge Doty did regarding the case of the states of Missouri and Louisiana versus the Biden regime on censorship and the collaboration, the collusion of the Biden government with big tech. So, just very quickly, on July 4th, the judge came out with a preliminary injunction on behalf of the states of Missouri and Louisiana. It is a stunning 155-page memorandum or report where it lays out detail by detail by detail, example after example after example. It is overwhelming and irrefutable. And what the judge concludes is that the Biden administration over the last 2 years has engaged in the most massive attack on free speech. I'm using a verbatim quote now. The most massive attack on free speech in United States history. And in particular, under the guise of combating quote-unquote misinformation, quote-unquote disinformation, misinformatio, whatever the issue may be, that the Biden administration deliberately pressured, coerced, and in some cases actually blackmailed Facebook, Twitter, and Google, saying that if you do not censor certain individuals like that journalist Alex Berenson, or certain posts and certain tweets, we will come after you. We will fine you. We will punish you. We will threaten to break you up. We will regulate you even more. We will make life miserable for you. And so you have emails, text messages, all kinds of exchanges in which senior people around Biden, his top advisors, people in the Biden administration, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, the CIA. What the hell is the CIA doing getting involved in social media? What is the FBI doing getting involved in social media? Department of Homeland Security, the CDC, telling them we have a censorship regime and you need to toe the line. These people are dangerous. They must not be allowed to put their ideas out on social media. This has been one of the most destructive acts and consequences ever in the history of the United States. They censored literally tens of millions of Americans. I want to read to you the conclusion, but before I do, In November of 2019, the FBI gets the Hunter Biden laptop. On December 9 of 2019, the FBI concluded, they looked at it, they examined the Hunter Biden laptop, they said it's completely authentic. It belongs to Hunter. These are Hunter's pictures. These are Hunter's notes. This is Hunter's information. These are Hunter's videos. It is not Russian disinformation. In the judge's ruling, he points out specifically testimony given by Yoel Roth, who is one of the top people at Twitter. Yoel Roth documented and admitted, in fact, testified in front of Congress, that he met with the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and other national intelligence agencies at least on a weekly, if not 2 or 3 times a week. At least on a weekly basis. And that they told him to expect a hack and leak regarding Hunter Biden's laptop. In other words, some foreign government would claim that they hacked into Hunter Biden's laptop and that they are leaking damaging information. Do not believe it. They knew that the Hunter Biden story was going to come out, and the FBI knew that it was a real story, that it really was Hunter Biden's laptop, and that Russia had nothing to do with it. And yet they still pressured Twitter to deny and censor anything or anyone who mentioned the Hunter Biden laptop. More next. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, in a bombshell decision, and there's no other way to put it, it was delivered of all days on July 4th, Independence Day. Judge Doughty, D-O-U-G-H-T-Y, Doughty, however you pronounce his last name. On the case of Louisiana and Missouri, they are suing the Biden government. They're going to win. The judge says they're going to win. He says because the merits of the argument is so overwhelming, the evidence is so overwhelming, he says now that the Biden regime is clearly guilty of violating the First Amendment repeatedly, that they have engaged, his words, not mine, in the most massive attacks on free speech in United States history. Now, I want to read to you the conclusion. And everybody, please stop what you're doing. You need to hear this. Because this is, amazingly, the Biden regime is appealing this. They've been caught censoring Americans, suppressing free speech, discriminating against conservatives. And these idiots want to appeal and eventually take this to the Supreme Court. Quote, so here's what the judge wrote, Judge Doughty. The plaintiffs are likely to succeed on the merits in establishing that the government has used its power to silence the opposition to President Biden's policies, statements that the Hunter Biden laptop story was true, and opposition to policies of the government officials in power. All were suppressed. It is quite telling that each example or category of suppressed speech was conservative in nature. This targeted suppression of conservative ideas is a perfect example of viewpoint discrimination of political speech. American citizens have the right to engage in free debate about the significant issues affecting the country. I mean, boom, drop the mic. So what he's saying and what the evidence now clearly shows, let's not mince words. We now have a government that is ordering, coercing, and colluding with big tech, these tech giants, where most of the flow of information, that's just how it is in today's society, goes through. People are on Twitter all the time. They're on Instagram. They're on TikTok. They're on Facebook. They're obviously on Google. And they were given direct orders. You will not question the line on Hunter Biden's laptop. When we say it's Russian misinformation, then it's a Russian operation, and you're going to accept it. When we say lock down the entire country and cost people millions of jobs, their livelihoods, countless businesses destroyed and bankrupted, trillions of dollars squandered and lost, shut up and obey. You don't question the Biden regime on global warming, on any issue, January 6th, whatever, because we will censor you. Now, I gotta ask, you tell me, how is this different than Vladimir Putin? How is this different than communist China? You oppose the government line, you get censored. You oppose the government line, they silence you. And so the judge is coming out and saying, I've never seen anything like this. And they blackmailed these big tech companies saying, you are going to get fined, you are going to get regulated, you are going to get broken up. You better do what we tell you to do or you're going to be in big trouble. Now, some were willing participants. They were eager. They were far leftists themselves who can't wait to cancel people or their views, silence and censor them. But others were pushing back, and you see in these messages and emails, thugs, and that's what they are, they're thugs, threatening them, saying, who are you to question us? We say jump, you say how high. Now, just a couple of points, and I want to throw it open to you. The FBI knew that the Hunter Biden laptop was authentic, and yet they colluded and ordered big tech to censor and suppress that story. And if anybody said the Hunter Biden laptop story was true, you were branded as someone who was peddling misinformation or disinformation, and you were silenced on social media. We lecture the world on democracy? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Now, in the wake of this decision, when I say the Democrats are going berserk, when I say the establishment is losing its mind, MSNBC, someone's going to get a conniption. Really, someone's got to calm down. MSNBC and CNN, calm down, because someone's going to drop dead on the air. One after another are condemning this. They're condemning the ruling that is trying to uphold the First Amendment and free speech. Now, Biden, think about this. Instead of slinking away with their tails between their legs, having been caught red-handed definitively now, the Biden regime wants to appeal this ruling by the judge. In other words, they want to appeal in favor of censorship, in favor of more discrimination against anybody who dissents against them, against any conservatives. So they want more repression, more censorship, more authoritarianism. They don't want more freedom and more debate. They want less freedom and less debate. What the left and the Democrats are trying to argue is that in the name of combating, quote unquote, misinformation or disinformation, misinformation and disinformation, censorship is needed. We need the gatekeepers. This is dangerous to democracy. We can't have people disagreeing and authority being challenged. Here's a montage. President Biden, Joe Manchin, MSNBC, all of them saying misinformation must be shut down. We don't care what this judge says. We don't care what the impact is on the First Amendment. We don't care how many people are censored. By the way, on everything they censor people on, they turned out to be right. Everything they claim to be mis or disinformation turned out to be 1,000% correct. Roll cut 48. Mike.
The only way we get past misinformation is if we are careful about what we say and we use the power that we have to limit the spread of that misinformation.
My hope is that Facebook, instead of taking it personally that somehow I'm saying Facebook is killing people, that they would do something about the misinformation.
We're depending on the social media giants to take down untruths and things of this sort.
Hunter Biden, this laptop that intelligence officials have warned is likely Russian disinformation.
Okay, I want to ask you, should we continue to have censorship in the United States? The left now unbelievably says yes. I say this is authoritarianism. What say you? All of your calls next. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me ask you, it's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Kelly Financial Services. Do you think there is ever a need for censorship? And what I mean by censorship, I mean government censorship. Do you ever think there is a need for the government to either directly censor someone, or in this case, what the judge has now found in his bombshell ruling against Biden and the Biden regime, that they deliberately targeted conservatives and they used Facebook, Twitter, big tech to silence millions and millions and millions of ordinary conservatives who dared to challenge the government's line on the lockdowns, on global warming. Take your pick. Take your pick. On Afghanistan, the withdrawal from Afghanistan. You would not believe, I mean, literally now they are silencing dissent across this country. Is there ever a need for government censorship? Clearly, banning transgender books in school, you're completely right. If you oppose that now, if you oppose transgenderism in school, or pornography, gay pornography to kindergarten kids or first or second graders, then you should be censored, according to them. So, so my question is now, what about, there are some legitimate cases of censorship. Take Al-Qaeda or ISIS. Should they be allowed to just purvey their stuff on social media, knowing full well they're most likely trying to plan eventually a terrorist attack and kill countless innocent civilians? Child pornography. It's a crime. Should the government be involved in censoring child porn? So in other words, are there ever instances where government censorship is necessary? I want to hear from you, yes or no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in Nancy, ER. You can also vote on our on Twitter. We have a handle there, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhn as in Nancy, ER. Quickly, Karine Jean-Pierre, White House Minister of Propaganda for the White House, was asked specifically about Judge Doty's ruling, saying you colluded with big tech, and this was the most massive attack on free speech in U.S. history. What is your response? What's the president's response? Roll cut 45. Mike.
We are going to continue to promote.
Do I have a response to the judge basically saying that this is the most massive attack on free speech in the U.S. history?
So, as you know, DOJ is reviewing the decision, the injunction, and so I don't want to get ahead of what they will evaluate and their options could potentially be. So, I'm not going to get ahead of the DOJ. If you're asking me if we agree or disagree, we certainly disagree with this decision. And as I said, the DOJ is reviewing this, so I'm not going to get ahead of what their evaluation, what options they're going to potentially take on moving forward.
What are you reviewing? What are you reviewing? Like, what is there to review? Like, what? You want to keep censoring millions and millions of Americans? Because, by the way, all of us turned out to be right. Everything I was censored for turned out to be right. Everything the left vilified me for turned out to be right. Everything. Here, one more, and then I want to go to the phone lines. No, by the way, they're sticking to their guns. Oh, no. In the name of public health and safety, no, we're going to continue to coerce big tech and social media. You got to take those tweets and posts down. Roll cut 45A, Mike.
We are going to continue to promote responsible actions to protect public health, safety, and security. Our view remains that social media platforms have a critical responsibility to take action or to take account of the effects of their platforms are having to the American people. And so we're going to continue to be responsible in that way.
That's not your business. This is unbelievable. This is not a police state. You don't have the right to go around. What's next? You're going to police newspapers? You're going to police magazines? You're going to police what, blogs? You're going to run, no, take that down. Nah, we don't like that. Take that down. No, hey, whoa. You mean, you don't, what? You think the FBI was involved in January 6th? That they had undercover agents? Take that down. What, Hunter Biden? What do you mean? Hold on, what? You think he's the one that had the cocaine in the White House? Take it down. And you're telling me we're living in a free society? This ruling should shock the conscience of every single American. Now, are there certain extreme cases where there is a need for censorship? Yes. It's, to me, an obvious one. Terrorism, they're plotting to blow something up or kill innocent people, calling for the violent overthrow of the American government or child pornography. But as the judge said in his ruling, we're not talking about anything like this. We're talking about issues of public policy in which people have the right to disagree. But this is my point, and this is the judge's point. Under Biden, under the modern day left, we are now seeing authoritarianism and intolerance rear its ugly head. And they can spin it any way they want. From this point forward, they've been caught. They've been caught. You censored, you suppressed, you oppressed people. And now you're not just doubling, but tripling down? Shame on you. Shame on you. Matt in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Matt, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Hey, Matt.
So, a couple things. Have you ever considered maybe the little bag left in the White House was just might have been there since Barry's days? Just throwing it out there.
Well, be careful now, Matt. Hey, the government may be coming after you now. Don't go against the regime there, Matt. They don't like that.
Don't care what they like. Let them come. The poll question is why I called. I am in favor of any federal government institution. What does the FCC stand for, Jeff?
The Securities and Exchange Commission.
The FCC?
Oh, the
FCC.
I thought I heard SEC. I'm so sorry. The Federal Communications Commission. Go ahead.
So you tear down the federal communications and you rebuild 50 state communication systems and then let the states take over from there. Most states are going to be very reasonable. And anything we can do to take power away from the federal government and put it into the individual state hands. That's how I answer the poll question and any other question that has to do with any other federal government.
That's a great question. I mean, that's a great answer. That's
Tear
a great
it all
point.
down, including the FBI. Tear that down, and they should all work together. Every state should work together, but on a state level. Let us handle our state. How are you doing over in your state? Our state's good. Maybe you should try this in your state. If you take it away from the federal government, the closer you can get every aspect of American life into the hands of individual Americans, people will amaze you if you just let them.
I agree. No, I agree. Matt, I'm just curious, though, just as a philosophical matter, I think you're dead on. I would break up the FCC. and give it to the 50 states. I'm with you. And let the states decide what's appropriate and what's inappropriate. But as a philosophical matter, do you ever think there is a need for censorship, government censorship?
Well, yeah.
I'm just curious, like child pornography. No, because there are some libertarians who say no. They go, it's just because once you give the government that kind of power, they don't know when to stop themselves. So there are some, but I'm just curious. I don't know, child pornography, terrorism. Do you think there's certain examples or certain instances where the government needs to say no? Just no, we're going to ban this, period, full stop?
Yes, but again, that's something that I think each individual state government should do. And I would make it my intent to live in this state that has, I consider myself a libertarian, though I also acknowledge the need for government. Now, it is an important part of, it's the reason we live so free and quite frankly safely. And we have these wonderful lives that these children hate so much because it's such a terrible country. They don't understand, and there is a need for government. And I believe me, I know a lot of, my brother is a full-on Bernie bro. And he has been very difficult to deal with, although I've kind of opened his eyes and just said, look, I understand you. I wish everything was just free for everybody. Nobody really had to do anything. That'd be great. But we live in the real world, and we all need to acknowledge that. And yes, you do need government. Or
you're right. No, in some instances. Well, James Madison said that if men were angels, they would not need government. But sadly, they're not angels. So you need some government. The problem is you don't want government to grow to the point that it becomes abusive. So that's what our founders were concerned about. So you need the government to do certain basic things, law and order, roads, national defense, certain minimal functions to have a civilized society. But other than that, then leave all the power that remains to the states and to the individuals. And I'm with the founders all the way. I think they got the mix just right. Just right. Thank you very much for that call, Matt. Dave in Pennsylvania. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I hope you had a blessed 4th of July, buddy.
I did. Dave, what do you make of all this?
I think it's the Democrats being Democrats, Jeff, but I don't mean to get off subject, but Jeff, can I make a humble apply to you? I just want, and my fiance's listening, I got engaged on July 4th, Jeff, to the most beautiful woman in the world, my Gulf War sweetheart, my Nancy, if you're listening in Pittsburgh on Alexa. I love you, and I'm so blessed to have you in my life. I'm sorry, Jeff, but I had to say that.
No, congratulations, okay? Dave, congratulations.
Yep, and, she's a conservative too, Jeff. But, what these Democrats are trying to do, Jeff, it's Stalinist tactics. And because they disagree with the court, because Trump, thank God Trump had all those appointees to the court. Now we're spreading the true American conservative values through the Constitution, and the Democrats don't like it. They should just read their Manifesto of Communism by Karl Marx, Jeff.
Dave, are you stunned by everything the judge is now exposed? That we had the FBI directly ordering social media. We want anything that is challenging the line that the laptop was Russian information or disinformation, take it down. You had the CDC or the Homeland Security Department literally instructing Twitter and Facebook. I mean, we're talking, frankly, tens of millions of Americans were censored, in many cases silenced and suppressed. Journalists were targeted and silenced. Radio talk show hosts, a la the Kuhner man, were targeted and silenced. Are you shocked that it was to this extent under Biden?
Because the court does the right thing. Now that we got the conservative leaning on the court, that's how it should be. And Jeff, even JFK Jr. would agree with you on most of this. That's why in the Democratic primary here in PA, I can't vote as an independent out of the primaries, but I'm going to become a Democrat for a little bit just to vote for
RFK,
Jr.
Right? Yeah, for RFK Jr. No, I hear you. No, by the way, he celebrated this ruling by the judge. RFK Jr. came out July 4th and said, it's Independence Day, baby. What a day to have this ruling. So he's blasting big tech and he's blasting the Biden regime, saying that what we have now seen is mass censorship on a scale never before in American history. And RFK Jr. says he will restore the First Amendment, restore civil liberties. People will be able to be free to debate in our country again should he become president.
Great. Well, Jeff, thank you again for letting me use your platform to announce my engagement.
And congratulations to you and your wonderful fiancée, Dave. God bless you, my friend. Russ in Boston. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
First of all, Jeff, Joe Biden has never had the mental capacity to mastermind this Trojan horse. This, without question, is masterminded by the man who Ted Kennedy once called Osama Bama. He said he would transform this country, and he has done it. We are now operating as a banana republic. Our overpowering central government is a dictatorship. If the Democratic Party rejects Robert Kennedy as their leader, it must be destroyed. It will never return to its roots. Just look here in Massachusetts. The Democrats replaced Matt Capiano with an extreme anti-American, which was disgraceful. And I hate to say this, but most voters in Massachusetts, ignorance is alive and well. And most Democrats voters here in Massachusetts will not hear the truth or will not accept the truth, okay? And if all of them listen to the Kuhner show, it might penetrate their brain. Of course, you got Bill from Sudbury and the other gentleman from North Andover, and you can never penetrate their brain. But, Jeff, all this is so disgusting. As a patriotic American who loves this country, it is sickening to see what the hell is going on.
Russ, I'm so with you, and I just want to ask you, I'm just curious, are you shocked by the judge's conclusion, his findings, where he said, opposition was pervasively silenced at the behest of the government? That here you had Joe Biden and his top people ordering big tech, and literally, Russ, they took down posts from people like me, people like, just ordinary people like you, people in this audience. Their accounts were frozen, or they were kicked off Facebook, or their posts were taken down, or their tweets were taken down. So it's like 1984. In fact, it is 1984. They're monitoring and watching what we're saying, and the government is now saying, we'll accept this, we won't accept this. We'll censor this, but we won't censor this. And now, for the judge to say the worst attack on free speech, massive attack on free speech in the history of the United States, ay. Now, Russ, I want to ask you, say this was reversed. Say this was Donald Trump and his aides and his minions, and that they were caught and there's 155 pages of example after example in which Democrats and liberals were censored, silenced, suppressed if they challenged Trump on anything, and those posts were taken down, or they were canceled, or they were censored. Do you think the Democrats would just sit around and say, oh, it's a nice ruling by the judge? They would shut the government down. There would be holy hell if you challenged his policies, if you disagreed with him on the wall, if you disagreed with him on China, whatever the issue is. And suddenly they find out millions of liberals were being censored under pressure from the Trump administration. Russ, am I wrong? Liberals, you'd have there'd be an insurrection. Nancy Pelosi would have shut Congress down, and he would have been impeached on the spot. Am I wrong?
No, Jeff. Jeff, you would never hear the end of it. Day and night, they'd be pumping this out over the airwaves and everything else. Absolutely. All the left-wing newspapers in this country would be front page every day, without question. This would not stand, And let's face it, even Republicans, patriotic Americans like myself, would not accept this. It is so important for all of us for the First Amendment. That is our number one amendment. And of course, a Second Amendment is just as important. But without freedom of speech, we have nothing.
Amen. We have nothing. I so agree with you. Russ, as always, thank you so much for your call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to broaden this up just a little bit and ask all of you. What you're seeing now, this is the argument now that MSNBC is making, CNN is making, Karine Jean-Pierre, Biden, they're going to, Merrick Garland, they're going to appeal this. They're arguing that in certain cases of quote-unquote misinformation, okay, as the Russians would say, misinformatio, that the government has the right and the duty to pressure, say, social media, big tech, to censor. But they have the right. That the government can determine what is dangerous to our democracy, so-called, and what is not dangerous to our democracy. So, does the government have the right to censor what it perceives to be disinformation or misinformation? I say absolutely not. This is antithetical to democracy, antithetical to freedom, antithetical to the First Amendment. In a free society, you have the right to believe whatever you want to believe. That's what it means to live in a free society. And notice, in most cases, the so-called misinformation and disinformation turned out to be true, completely true. And what they're really saying is, you cannot challenge the government narrative, you cannot challenge the government line. Well, my friends, as I said, if Trump did this, they'd be calling this, and rightly so, a tyranny and a dictatorship. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, a lot of you are responding, obviously, on the text messages and on the text line, and you're saying, Jeff, we kind of knew all this. I mean, we talked about it for over the last 2.5 years. It's nice to have a judge finally recognize it, acknowledge it, put it all together in a very impressive ruling, 155 pages. And so many of you are asking, well, Jeff, what do you think is going to happen next? Well, look, here's what it's going to play out. The administration now is asking the Department of Justice, to me incredibly, to review it, and then they're going to challenge. They are going to appeal. So they've already announced they're going to appeal. So why you want to appeal in favor of censorship is beyond me. And it's not child pornography or, as I said, Al-Qaeda or ISIS, because I can clearly see the need. There are some forms of behavior, or if you want to talk about free speech, some forms of speech, a la child pornography, that are so abominable, so outrageous, so offensive to the community, and pose such a threat, in other words, child molestation, child rape, that the government needs to ban it. I get it. It's illegal. But those are the extremes. You know, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. So you're talking about terrorist groups that are planning and plotting to blow up buildings or crash airliners or slaughter innocent civilians. Well, yeah, that should be banned and they should be monitored, obviously. But we're not talking about that. So I want to ask you, is there ever a case where censorship you believe is valid or legitimate when it comes to dealing with so-called, what the left says is misinformation or disinformation? And in particular, should conservatives be targeted for censorship? The judge says it was clear under Biden. For 2.5 years, this was targeted political oppression, targeted political censorship. Conservatives were the only ones, millions and millions of us, who were directly suppressed, censored, and had our views taken down. Is this now the new left, the new Democratic Party? Is this now what liberalism stands for? 617-266-6868 is the number. Bill in Sudbury. Thanks for holding, Bill, and welcome.
Morning. Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Bill.
This is my question for you. How does a free and open society, a free press, deal with utter nonsense that's floating around in the ether?
Well, we've been dealing with utter nonsense since the beginning of time.
I understand that, but what's the correct way to deal with nonsense?
Well, I mean, it's your right, Bill. I mean, no one utters nonsense more than you. I never said you should be censored. No one utters nonsense more than Biden. I've never said he should be censored. People have the right to utter nonsense. That's what it means to have a First Amendment. That's what it means to have free speech.
Editors, censors.
That's what I mean. You see, Bill, you're like Ben in North Andover. You're like a tape.
Well, no, you want to turn it against me. I want to talk to you about where the line is. Where's the line between what should be discussed and what is nonsense? Where's that line?
Well, look, who gets to decide what should be discussed?
I agree.
What is this, Stalin's Russia?
Well, I think society generally makes it. It's not a matter of law. It's a matter of human behavior. If people just automatically decide that that's not something that I'm going to listen to, that piece of information is nonsense.
That's not censorship. I don't think, Bill, I don't think you understand the definition of censorship. If I don't want to watch MSNBC, which I don't, I just don't watch. You know why? Because it's vitriolic garbage. Honestly, it's lies and propaganda. So why would I want to watch or listen to lies, watch lies and propaganda? Now, that's my right not to watch it. If you want to watch it, go ahead and watch it. That's what it is to live in a free society. I don't see your point.
You think wisdom lies in not watching it, not a discerning viewer watching it and deciding what is real and what is foolishness?
Well,
you think it's better to not watch?
Look, Bill, look, I don't have time to watch every show. I don't have time to read everything. So if I don't want to watch something, that's my right. If you don't want to listen to something, if you don't want to listen to me, that's your right. That's what it is. It's called freedom, Bill. Try it. You may like it. You see, Bill, unlike you, we don't censor anyone on the Kuhner Report. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Sandy and I were just talking about this off air. When you listen to Bill from Sudbury, and he's just echoing the progressive line, this is AOC, this is Bernie, this is Elizabeth Warren, frankly, this is MSNBC, CNN, NPR. Notice what he's saying. What he's saying is that you and me, ordinary people, we are not intelligent enough to discern what is true from what's nonsense. And somehow we need the government, we need the state to tell us, the regime to tell us what's nonsense and what's important. I mean, as I told Sandy, it's utterly totalitarian. So we're too stupid. That's what the progressives ultimately are concluding, that we are just too stupid to know what's in our best self-interest. We're too stupid to know what's important, what's not important, what's the truth, what is not the truth. And we're just too stupid, naive, and gullible to tell the difference, to discern so-called misinformation and disinformation from what's true and factual and proven, or as they like to say, based on science. So the government must do the thinking for us. The government must tell us what we can't or can't do, what we can't or can't say, what we can or can't watch, or what we can or can't listen to. And, Sandy's like, this is really frightening. I go, well, yeah, welcome to my world. I've been noticing this trend now for God knows how many years on the left. They are, in the name of tolerance, they're becoming intolerant. In the name of liberalism, they're becoming illiberal. And so in the name of diversity and equity and inclusion, what they're really peddling is fascism. What they're really peddling is authoritarianism. And this is why the judge's ruling is such a bombshell. He goes, every single instance of discrimination, political discrimination and censorship was against conservatives. For what? And what were their crimes? They opposed Biden's policies? Like, what is this, the old Soviet Union? What is this, communist China? They lied about everything. Everything. And yet they're still going on that they have the right to censor after this disaster? And again, I go back to the point. When you don't have the ability to have freedom to be able to challenge the government or challenge someone like Fauci or challenge a prevailing orthodoxy, well, then how could you warn the public if things are going wrong? That's what happens in all these totalitarian societies. They can't self-correct because criticism is banned. Criticism is censored. Criticism is verboten. It's forbidden. So what you're seeing in the Bills of Sudbury and the Bens of North Andover, they really are. They're communist scum. That's what they really are. But it's communism now through the back door. And that's what MSNBC is pushing, and CNN and NPR. This is the modern day Democratic Party. We will think for you, we will decide for you, and we will determine what is acceptable and not acceptable opinion. And we will then pressure, say, social media or the media, the legacy media, establishment media, and we will tell you what is acceptable and what is not, what you can allow and when you cannot allow. Now, I'm telling you, before we even get into anything else, this is a blatant violation of the First Amendment. I'm reading this ruling by Judge Dowdy, this magnificent ruling, and I'm like, how the hell is Biden not impeached for this? I mean, this is an open and shut case of violation of the First Amendment. I mean, this is government suppression of private free speech. I mean, boom. It's black and white law. And the liberals are, how do we appeal this? We gotta stop this. There'll be misinformation. Okay, even if you accept their premise. There are people who believe that the world is flat. Let them believe it. There are people who believe the Holocaust never happened. Let them believe it. They're idiots. There are people who believe that Stalin only killed 10,000 people and not 20 million. But let them believe it. There are people who think communism is good. Let them believe it. There are idiots all on the left who still think Trump colluded with Putin. They're idiots. Let them believe it. That's what it means to live in a free society. The antidote to bad speech is good speech. It's more ideas, more speech. And the truth will eventually win out. Especially if you have and allow freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of thought. Because then you can bring in facts, you can bring in evidence, and eventually, look, you want to disprove Holocaust denial? No problem. Just roll out the evidence. It's that simple. So they just kept relying on authority because we tell you to, because we tell you to, because we tell you to. Now shut up and obey. Well, now it turns out they were pressuring social media, coercing them, threatening them to silence and censor millions and millions and millions of dissenting voices, including targeting journalists. And you liberals lecture us on tolerance? Get lost. Get lost. 617-266-6868 is the number. Barbara in Georgia. Thanks for holding, Barbara, and welcome.
Hey there, Jeff. I'm down here visiting Savannah. I normally call you from Baltimore, but I love hearing you down here. It's hot as I don't know what. So
it's hot as hell.
I thought it was hot up there, but no, this is it. It's brutal. About what you're talking about, isn't it unbelievable that they even want to challenge this, that they think they could win? I mean, it's good for conservatives if they did this. I mean, it's great for President Trump if they did challenge it. I think they're just saying that now. I don't think they're really going to do it because it puts their whole playbook right.
No, I hear you, Barbara. They don't want to be held accountable. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, here's a really, really good email that I think puts the final bow on the whole topic. Jeff, regarding censorship, I've been screaming regarding this issue from the rooftops ever since it started rearing its ugly, tyrannical head back in 2015, and have been warning people that this deeply offensive and highly dangerous practice must never be allowed to get a foothold and take precedence in our nation, or we will live to regret it. And here we are 8 years later. Censorship of free speech is not only un-American and utterly egregious to our very founding principles, but it also removes our first line of defense as a people to warn and be warned of societal hazards and dangers in whatever forms they come in, and also to call out criminality and corruption. We must never tolerate it to any degree. Bingo. You see, oppressive regimes, corrupt criminal regimes don't want freedom of speech, because then you can call them out. You can criticize them. You can expose them. And by exposing them, you can hold them accountable. And that's why the Judge Doty, was right to be so outraged, saying, how dare these Biden officials, how dare this regime, to me, a criminal regime, these cabal of gangsters, you start going and start censoring millions and millions of Americans because they happen to disagree with the line that you're peddling and the lies that you're spewing under the guise of science, which turned out to be nothing more than pure political control and propaganda? No. I'm sorry. So, look, we now know what we face. And if you want to see now how bad things are getting, and why the left is going berserk, it's not just this ruling by Judge Doty. The Supreme Court now, it's bang, 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 whether it be student loans. You literally, you named the issue. Now it was also this decision. And this was regarding a case in Colorado. It's 303 Creative LLC versus Elenis. And the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 in favor of Lori Smith and her custom website business. And you may be saying to me, Jeff, who the hell is Lori Smith? Well, this is the question that was in front of the Supreme Court, and I want to ask all of you. There is a Colorado anti-discrimination pro-LGBTQ plus law. And according to this law, it compelled Lori Smith she has a website business, and so it compelled her to make a website, to design and tailor a website for a same-sex wedding. And Lori Smith said, as a devout Christian, I don't believe in same-sex weddings. I believe marriage is between a man and a woman. And this is my fundamental religious belief. It's my fundamental conscience, the belief of my conscience. And so asking me to make a website for something that violates my religious faith and violates my fundamental conscience rights is something I cannot do. Well, this went to the Supreme Court. And in a 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court ruled, again, all five conservatives plus John Roberts against the 3 liberal justices. And they said the state has no right to coerce speech. The state has no business to force you to say or believe in something that you don't believe or want to say. And so because, as Judge Gorsuch wrote in the majority opinion, Justice Gorsuch wrote, this is something that goes right to the heart of her religious beliefs and her right of conscience. And so to ask her to violate her religious beliefs and violate her rights of conscience is an abomination. It is a violation of the First Amendment. It is a violation of everything this country stands for, which is you have the right to freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of expression, and freedom of religion. In other words, this decision was a big victory for the First Amendment and for pluralism in America. When I say the left has gone ballistic, after this decision came out on Friday, last week, they are calling now for the Supreme Court to be packed. They're calling for justices like Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito to be impeached. They are now denouncing the legitimacy of the Supreme Court, and they're now claiming, I swear to you, that the Supreme Court is pushing hate on the LGBTQ community. Well, as the justices pointed out, and they gave example after example, they go, it would be the same as asking, say, a gay person, say an artist, to draw a mural for a Christian or something to do regarding Christianity. If that gay person didn't want to do it, that's their right. Or as the justices said, if a bunch of neo-Nazis were to go to a Jewish bakery deliberately and say, you know what, you're going to bake me a cake and you're going to commemorate the Holocaust on the cake, or you're going to put a nice big swastika. Well, if the Jewish baker says, whoa, no, this violates my fundamental conscience rights, I'm not going to make you a Nazi cake. I'm sorry, I'm just not. Well, that's the baker's right. Now, as Lori Smith pointed out, she goes, I'm not refusing service to gay people. I'm not saying, hey, because you're gay, I'm not going to build you a website. If you're gay and you say, hey, we want to do a website for animal rescue, we want to do a website to feed the poor, we want to do a website to raise money for this school. Yeah, I don't care that you're gay. You're asking me to build a website, to tailor a website for something that violates my fundamental religious conscience beliefs. And the Supreme Court said yes. In other words, you have the right to dissent from the dominant liberal culture, the elite culture. If you don't believe in same-sex marriage, if you don't believe in transgenderism, if you don't believe in political, whatever it may be, if you don't believe in this, you have the right to say no. You just do. Now, these idiots on the left, I swear to you, are now arguing, just to show the kind of constitutional morons they are, now they're saying, oh, what the Supreme Court is saying is they have the right to refuse service. They can refuse service to black people, refuse service to gay people, refuse service to anybody. No. What they're saying is you can't compel someone to say or do something that violates their fundamental religious or conscience beliefs. That violates their conscience. That's all. That's all that they're saying. Well, I don't know if you know him, but this actor from The Sopranos, Michael Imperioli, he was also in Goodfellas. Anyway, this idiot has now come out and said, well, in the wake of the Supreme Court decision, I'm going to ban all conservatives, all Christians, all patriots, anyone who sides with Trump. You can't watch The Sopranos. We're not going to allow you to buy whatever the CDs, forgive me, the DVDs of whatever the 5 seasons or whatever it was of The Sopranos. Now, number one, how are you going to find out who's watching The Sopranos? And how are you going to find out whether they're conservatives or Christians? And how are you going to prevent them from watching The Sopranos? So, I mean, genius. I don't see how you're going to enforce this. But more than that, no one is saying you can deny anyone service. What they're saying is, if it's something to do with fundamentally to their religious or conscience rights or beliefs, you can't coerce them. Listen now to the White House, because they were angry as hell. Roll cut 20, Mike.
We are deeply disappointed in the Supreme Court's decision today in 303 Creative, which takes our nation backward in the fight for equality. This decision undermines the basic truth that no American should face discrimination for who they are or who they love. And it's even more disappointing as we close out Pride Month today. It chips away at a long-standing laws that protect all Americans against discrimination in public accommodations, including people of color, people with disabilities, and people of faith, and women. While the court's decision only addresses expressive original designs, as President Biden said today, we are concerned that the decision could invite more discrimination against the LGBTQ+ community.
I mean, this is incredible. This really is. So now you're telling me, no, really, here, let's take the Jewish baker. So now you're telling me, under your theory, just to show you how totalitarian now they've become, you're going to force a Jewish baker to make a cake with a swastika to a bunch of neo-Nazis? And you think that's okay? I'm just thinking out loud here. I mean, I could go on and on. So you're going to force, say, I don't know, Christians or Jews to bake a cake celebrating jihad? If you got Muslim extremists who say, yeah, let me stick it to these guys. Let me stick it to these guys. I mean, in other words, what they're saying, here's what they're saying. You must toe the line. When it comes to our progressive beliefs, when it comes to this liberal dominant culture that they have now imposed, this woke ideology, you cannot dissent. We will not allow you to dissent. Now, of course, they can dissent. They can discriminate against conservatives. They do it all the time. And they can discriminate against Christianity and Christians. They do it all the time. But if you dissent from woke ideology or the LGBTQ+ agenda, we will destroy you. And the Supreme Court is saying absolutely not. Listen now to Jonathan Turley saying this is one of the most remarkable victories for free speech and pluralism in the history of the United States. It is in many ways a remarkable decision. Roll cut 22, Mike.
These cases, Masterpiece Cake Shop as well as 303 Creative, do not change the public accommodation laws. You cannot be refused to go into stores and buy items that are pre-made, for example, based on your race or your status. In fact, in Masterpiece Cake Shop, the owner said, no, we don't discriminate against anyone. We don't make any inquiries. It's only when you ask me to make a cake that expresses the celebration of a same-sex marriage that it really confronts the religious views that I have, and I don't want to do that. So what the court is saying here is that with these types of creative products, it is speech. And for those of us in the free speech community, this is an amazing moment. This will go down as one of the most important free speech cases in the history of the court. It'll go down as one of the most important cases Gorsuch has ever handed down, in my view.
Amen. Amen. And I count myself as a member of the free speech community. You better believe it. Here, I can give you example after example. Here, you go to a Christian baker and you say, I want you to make me a devil worship cake. I don't mean devil cake. I mean literally. Like, no, we're a bunch of Satanists, and you're gonna make us a cake celebrating Lucifer and the devil. Now the Christian turns around and says, right now, look, if I'm a Christian baker, I'm the baker, okay? Kuhner's Bakery, and someone walks in. I'm telling you right now, and someone walks in and says, we're a bunch of Satanists. Yeah, that's none of my business. I don't care. Like, I'll serve you whatever you want. No. You're going to make me a cake. And in that cake, you're going to celebrate Lucifer. No way. No. Hey, buddy, I'm not putting my soul in jeopardy for you. Whatever you're paying me for this cake, $20, $25, $30, $100, $500, $1,000, I'm not getting my hands dirty with this. Now, look, what you do in the privacy of your own bedroom or at home, that's your business. We got cupcakes, I'll sell you whatever we've got. But don't ask me to make something that violates my fundamental religious and conscience beliefs. Here, you don't like another one? Here, I'll give you this one. After what my grandfather went through, if a group of neo-Nazis came in and said, we want a Nazi swastika cake, no effing way. No effing way. Absolutely not. Here, the hammer and sickle. I'm not kidding. A bunch of Black Lives Matter Antifa thugs come in. Now, I'll serve you. Whatever I have, I'll pay. You pay, and but you ask me to make a cake with the communist red star and the hammer and sickle celebrating the Bolshevik Revolution? No way. No way. No way. Over my dead body. No way. No way. Now, I have that right. You can't coerce speech. You can't force me to say or do something I don't want to do and I don't believe in. Now, this is just common sense. Yet look how far the left has now gone. As again, look how totalitarian so now you want to literally compel people to say and do things, not only that they strongly disagree with, but that violates every fundamental dear principle that they believe in. Listen now to AOC. They're just getting warmed up. Listen now to Sandy Cortez. Roll cut 23. Mike.
I believe that if Chief Justice Roberts will not come before Congress for an investigation voluntarily, I believe that we should be considering subpoenas. We should be considering investigations. We must pass much more binding and stringent ethics guidelines where we see members of the Supreme Court potentially breaking the law, as we saw in the refusal, with Clarence Thomas to recuse himself from cases implicating his wife in January 6th. There also must be impeachment on the table. We have a broad level of tools to deal with misconduct, overreach, and abuse of power. And the Supreme Court has not been receiving the adequate oversight necessary in order to preserve their own legitimacy. And in the process, they themselves have been destroying the legitimacy of the court, which is profoundly dangerous for our entire democracy.
This woman, I'm telling you, you want to talk about a threat to democracy? She's it. So here you have someone ignorant as hell, never held a real job in her life, knows nothing about the Constitution, knows nothing about economics, knows nothing about the Bill of Rights, knows nothing about history. I mean, you're talking about the proverbial bull in a china shop. I mean, ignorant as ignorant can possibly be. And now Congress needs to supervise the Supreme Court? And we're going to start impeaching justices because they disagree with decisions defending the First Amendment and free speech? And now they're questioning the very legitimacy of the Supreme Court. Notice, why now this massive attack by the radical left on the court? I'll tell you why. Why are Democrats now gunning for the court? Because it's now the only institution they don't control. So now it's tear it to the ground. Just destroy it, tear it to the ground, pack it, impeach it. You got whatever you got to do. Because it's the only bulwark left to their power. And by the way, that's a legacy of Trump. Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, those are the three Supreme Court justices that have now delivered on decision after decision after decision. And you look at other judges in the federal judiciary, like the one exposing the Biden censorship, all of these are Trump or conservative judges. So now it's purge the judiciary, purge the Supreme Court. Do what you gotta do, because we need to have complete and total power over the government. So let me ask all of you, 617-266-6868 is the number. Let's take the case in Colorado, the one the Supreme Court just ruled on, 303 Creative v. Ellenis. Should a Christian baker, Lori Smith, should she be compelled to make a wedding cake for a same-sex wedding? Does the government have the right to compel people to do things that violate their fundamental conscience or their fundamental religious principles? I say absolutely not. This is to me fascism. It's textbook fascism. And what do you say to the argument now that this now entitles liberals to discriminate against conservatives? Liberals now are responding by saying, and I'm going to give you some examples coming up in the next segment or 2 segments from now maybe, that now there's conservatives being banned from liberal businesses. A big story in PJ Media, where now liberal businesses or business owners are coming out and saying, in the wake of this decision, we will no longer service Trump supporters, conservatives, Christians, patriots, or Republicans. Your business is no good. Your money is no good. We will not service you. 617-266-6868 is the number. I want to ask all of you, should bakers or business owners be forced to say or do things that violate their fundamental beliefs? Or in a free society, are we allowed to disagree? And should we be allowed to tolerate each other's differences? The left says no. I say yes. What do you say? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, your calls right after this break. 617-266-6868 is the number. Dan in Dedham. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Wanted to point out that the comparisons you made earlier about, a Nazi or a fascist coming into a website designer or a cake maker and demanding their right to put a swastika on a cake as sort of comparable.
Dan, you're breaking up on me. Dan, I'm sorry. We lost you. It said as comparable, and then we lost you, Dan.
How about now? Can you hear me now, Jeff?
Yes, much better. So you're saying comparing it to, let's say, a Nazi coming in and saying to a website designer or a baker, bake me a Nazi cake, as comparable to, and then we lost you. So please pick it up from there, Dan.
Yeah. LGBTQ community coming and asking for a service designing a website for a wedding. So you're comparing a political organization or a cult group that believes in violence with a community that simply wants to have access to services from a company doing business in a public civil space as somehow comparable. And I think that's a disservice to people who are listening to your show.
Well, no, I was giving you. Dan, it's fine. It's fine. I was just giving one of many examples, and that's where it's been cited in terms of defense of the ruling. Here, I can give you another one. What if a Christian goes to a Muslim baker and says, I want you to bake me a cake that Jesus is Lord and he is the only one and true God? And the Muslim turns around and says, absolutely not. Now, is the Muslim compelled to make the cake?
Is the Muslim compelled to make the cake?
Yes.
Muslim, if a Muslim is serving in a public space, has their shingle hanging out in a public space, has been licensed by the state to do business, then in the public space, they must provide the service.
That's what I'm saying. The Supreme. Look, you see, you're confusing apples and oranges. If a Christian walks in and says, I want to get that cake, I want to get that cake, I want to get that cake, then according to public accommodation, and this is what the Supreme Court is saying, you must serve that person, regardless of their religion, sexual orientation, or whatever. But when you ask someone to do something specifically for you, and they're saying art is considered speech, so baking a cake is considered a form of art. So here, an atheist walks in to a baker, a Muslim baker, and says, I want you to make me this cake. Allah does not exist. There is no Allah, there is no God, and Allah does not exist. Or Muhammad is evil. And the Muslim turns around and says, I'm sorry, as a Muslim, I can't, you're asking me to commit something that would violate my fundamental conscience beliefs and my fundamental religious beliefs. Now, you would never ask that of a Muslim. I know you wouldn't. I know you wouldn't. So why are members of the LGBT, and by the way, they don't go to Muslim bakeries. Here, go to Michigan. In fact, people tried it. Some people were saying, let's just try it for the hell of it. So they went into Muslim bakeries in Michigan, and they said, hey, will you make us a same-sex wedding cake? And they, no, absolutely not. It violates our fundamental religious beliefs. Absolutely not. In fact, they said, get the hell out. But you don't target the Muslims. You go deliberately after this poor Christian woman, who, by the way, serves gays. It's not a question about serving gays. So if I was to ask a Muslim, bake me a cake that says Allah does not exist, and the Muslim says, I'm sorry, that's blasphemy. I can't do that. I'll sell you any cake you want, but I can't make you this cake. That's the Supreme Court's point. So would you force that Muslim to bake that cake?
Would.
I'm sorry, what?
I would force that business to provide the services in a public space that it has been licensed and granted to do.
Well, yeah. Well, that means you're a fascist.
What? Oh, is that right?
Yes, that's fascism. That's compelling someone to do something that violates their fundamental religious and conscience rights. You see, public accommodation. Look, you're not, Dan. This is the distinction. Public accommodation is, I cannot discriminate against someone who comes into my establishment and wants to buy what I'm serving. But when you order a cake and then you order something written on the cake, that's speech. That's not a service anymore. Now you're adding speech. And if you're going to compel someone to say something or do something that violates everything that they believe in, then I'm sorry, man, that's fascist, communist, authoritarian, tyrannical, dictatorial, call it what you want.
How is that not going to spread to other types of public accommodations from businesses that will claim a Christian or Muslim or Jewish or Buddhist bias to serve somebody because something that they're using to express themselves goes against their religion? Who's going to litigate? Who's going to decide when it's a legitimate religious a religious problem for somebody. Who's going to do that, Jeff? Who's going to do that?
Well, now you're making an open-ended argument. The point is...
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It's not open-ended, Jeff. It's what
do you want to hang on
about.
Look, I'm trying to give you an answer, and all you're just saying is, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You see, you're not using logic and reason. You're just using emotion. I'm up against the break, so if Dan wants to continue, I'll answer his question, and we can continue this. 617-266-6868 is the number, and as I predicted, Dan and Dedham, the moment I said you want to continue this debate, I'd go on for another 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. He dropped right away. It's just rage and emotion and emotion. So here, look, let me just read another email just to show you how ridiculous the left's position is on this. 617-266-6868 is the number. Jeff, with all due respect, you're on the right track, but I suggest better examples. Okay. Throw it back in their faces. Since 9/11, lefties have been screaming Islamophobia against us, right? So ask if a Muslim baker refuses to decorate a cake that says Jesus is Lord and Christianity is the only religion. Watch the philosophical pretzels they'll twist themselves into to excuse a Muslim refusal. Bingo. You're completely right. Or as the example I gave to Dan, here, you're an atheist or whatever, a Christian or whatever. Just say you're an atheist. Okay, you're the son of Christopher Hitchens, the famous atheist. God is not great, right? So you're Chris Hitchens' a son. And you walk into a Muslim bakery and you go, I want you to bake me a cake. You're going to bake it. And here's what you're going to write on it. You're going to write, Allah does not exist. Or Muhammad was a pedophile. Bake me that cake. And the Muslim turns around and says, what? Absolutely not. This violates my conscience, my fundamental religious beliefs. You can't coerce me to write something on this cake that I don't believe in, or to do this cake for something I don't believe in. Now, of course the Muslim would have every right to deny the cake. But what are you, nuts? So you're telling me now that you can literally coerce and force people to say and believe things they don't want to say or believe? Now, that's very different from walking into a bakery and saying, if the Muslim turned around, I'm just using that as an example, said, no, we don't serve atheists. That's something else. But it's not like you're coming into a bakery and saying, well, I want chocolate cake. Here, you got chocolate cake up there, make me a chocolate cake. And the Muslim, no, we don't serve your kind here. That's public accommodation. But when you get into, I want you to build this specific cake for this specific purpose with this specific message, well, that's speech. That's clearly expression and speech. And as the justices rightly argued, you can't violate freedom of speech and you can't violate freedom of expression. But look what a bunch of authoritarian thugs these leftists have now become. Suddenly now, well, where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? Very simple. You can't compel someone to do something in which you're forcing them to say or believe something that violates their fundamental beliefs. Hello? And by the way, establishments, even with public accommodation, I'm just pointing an obvious fact, do have the right to refuse service. You come in without a shirt on. You come in barefooted at a restaurant. They say, no shoes, no service. So what I'm saying is, even on or whatever, you misbehave or whatever, you reek, you stink, you haven't showered in 3 weeks, and people find I'm sorry, you're gonna have to leave, sir, or ma'am, you have to leave, or you're being too rowdy, or whatever. So this idea of the right to service, it's not absolute. Now, do I believe people should be denied service? Of course not. I don't care what you do in the privacy of your own bedroom, what you believe in. I don't care. I don't care. I have a bakery. I'll come in. I'll make you your muffins. I'll make you your cakes. I'll make you. But if you're going to, I use the communism example. But you can use any example. You're going to bake me a cake, Jeff, that says the Catholic Church is evil or God does not exist. I'm not baking you that cake. I don't care. Well, I'm an atheist. Good for you. So go to another baker. But I'm not going to violate my fundamental beliefs. Why should I? So what the libs are now demanding, and this is the point all 6 justices made, is now they're demanding coercion. Now they're demanding that you bend the knee to wokeism and the radical LGBTQ agenda. That's not tolerance. We're not talking now gay rights and same-sex marriage. Now we're talking you must toe the line no matter what. That's not freedom. That's fascism. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Reese in Methuen. Thanks for holding, Reese, and welcome.
Jeff. My face is melting off with that last call. Melting off. I stopped everything so I can call you. And I'll give you 2 examples, and then I'm going to give you solutions. Okay? I used to live in Brooklyn, and we used to go to a Dunkin' Donuts all the time. And the people that owned it were Muslim, and they were lovely. And one time I went in there, and I wanted a bacon, egg, and cheese. Big thing in Brooklyn. Wanted that. I'm sorry, honey, I can't do that. We're Muslim. We can't with the bacon. I said, okay, that's fine, cool. You know what I did? I got a coffee, and then I went across the street because I live in a country where there is a deli and a Dunkin' Donuts every 5 seconds, and I got it from someplace else. But I continued to go in there because they were lovely people. They were good to my children. Okay, solution, I can go someplace else. I'll give you another example. Recently, I ordered something, a bumper sticker for my car, right? You can scan it, and it has the lyrics to the song when you scan it from Spotify. I'm looking through a website on Etsy, and they have all different people that will make that for you. One in particular, the first one I found, I'm reading all the instructions, and the person said, we do not do anything with explicit lyrics. I said, well, I'm an adult. I would like the song with the explicit lyrics, so I went and I found another one. What I didn't do is carry on and sue and create havoc and call up the station like that man just did. I'm telling you, thank goodness you talked for a while because I calmed down a little, but I can't take this anymore. Like it's chaos. People just want chaos. They want victimhood. And yes, 2 things could be true at the same time. You do have a public business. You should be open to certain things, but you are allowed to have rules within your establishment. The other thing can be right where you do not have the, like, why wouldn't you want to support a business that supports you? My husband and I always try to support small business all the time rather than the big box stores. And we live in a country where we are allowed to do that. Why do people like to make themselves miserable all day long? If the place doesn't serve you, do you know how many businesses are LGBTQ plus? You know how many? Many. Lots. Go and support them. If you're Catholic, if you're Muslim, go find a business that's Catholic or Muslim or Buddhist. Go support them. I don't understand people lately. Everybody has collectively lost their minds. I just needed to say that.
Well, you're dead on. No, Reese, you're absolutely dead on. Look, to be brutally honest, that guy Dan in Dedham is an example of the rainbow mafia. That's what this is. It's the rainbow, whatever, gay mafia, rainbow mafia, whatever you want to call it. It's no longer about tolerance. We long past that, that's long gone. Now it's no longer, it's forced acceptance. That's what it is. They want to force you to bend the knee. And they will destroy you if you don't. And that's what I find really disturbing. Look, this Laurie Smith, everybody who knows her in Colorado says she's the nicest, sweetest person in the world. In fact, there were many gays that said, no, she served us. All she does is serve us. But she's a devout Christian. She tells everybody. She's open about it. So please don't ask me to do certain things that violate my fundamental Christian beliefs. Now, I'm sorry. I believe marriage is between a man and a woman. That's what I believe. Now, if you really, really want someone to service your same-sex wedding, she even gave them numerous other bakers who go, they're just as, website designers, forgive me, website designers, and said, honestly, they're just as good as I am. So they'll do whatever, you know. So this idea that she discriminates against gays, that's a lie. She just doesn't want to do something that she strongly doesn't believe in because it violates her fundamental religious beliefs. Now, if you're really serious about tolerance, can't you just say, I understand, and move on? I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I can't wrap my mind around this. So why do you think, Reese, that they are so determined to impose their agenda no matter what the cost, to the point that it's making them less and less likable? I've noticed this for the last 10 years. People are like, Jeff, I was all for this tolerance stuff, but now they just keep ramming it down our throat and ramming it down our throat, and they want us to force us to believe things or accept things we just don't want to accept.
I don't know. I have to be honest. I have no idea. I have lots of wonderful friends that are gay. They're amazing. I surround myself. I curate the people that I have around me. So I have people around me that are lovely, that create a positive attitude around my life. And I try to stay away from the people that have that mentality, that feel like I don't know if they just think that they're better than everybody. I don't know. I don't know.
Reese, great call, really. Well, no, they have a superiority complex. They're thugs. 617-266-6868 is the number. Peter in Rowley. Thanks for holding, Peter, and welcome.
Good morning.
Hi, Peter.
Hello, good morning. Yes, I have a question.
Yes,
go ahead. The first 5 words of the 13th Amendment are neither slavery nor involuntary servitude. So I'd like to know why the people, the lawyers representing the bakers and the website designer, why didn't they bring up the 13th Amendment? Because that sounds just like involuntary servitude to me. Can you figure this out?
Oh, that's a very good point. Peter, that's a very, very good point. And Peter, what I don't get is, and you're right, don't get me wrong, you're completely right. They did it on First Amendment grounds, and not the 13th Amendment, but the First Amendment. But you're right, they could have definitely used the 13th Amendment. No, Peter, what I don't get is this. It's people like Dan and Dedham, and there are many of them, these militant, hardcore leftists. Why do you Peter, if someone, for whatever reason, doesn't want to do something, and by the way, we're talking about words. Websites are words. When you ask somebody to bake a cake with something written on the cake, those are words. It's speech. Why would you want to force someone to write or do something that they don't want to write or do? I don't understand that mentality. Do you, Peter?
No, I'd say I don't want to do this, and that's involuntary servitude. And I don't know why it hasn't even entered the conversation before.
Oh, you're dead on. No, there's no question. I mean, what the left is now arguing is you really don't own your business. That's what they're saying. That you have to do whatever anyone tells you to do. That's if it's the right dominant progressive culture. In other words, if it's on behalf of LGBTQ or transgenderism or whatever it may be, if it's on behalf of their radical left-wing agenda, you can't oppose it, you can't dissent from it, you can't disagree, you don't have any freedom. It's unbelievable. And by the way, Peter, these are the very same people who go after Chick-fil-A. And they want to boycott and destroy Chick-fil-A. Why? The only reason why, it's owned by evangelicals. That's it. Literally, that's it. Oh, and they're closed on Sundays. Because as evangelicals, they believe Sunday's the day of the Lord, and so you shouldn't be open on Sunday, which frankly I respect. I mean, it's a little inconvenient. Sometimes I do like to go grab a sandwich or something, a chicken sandwich on a Sunday, but if they're closed, they're closed. It's their right. They don't want to be open on Sunday. Don't be open on Sunday. And so these are the very same people that go after Chick-fil-A for nothing. Nothing. And yet, when this Christian website designer says, no, really, you're asking me to endorse something I just cannot endorse. My religion teaches me that it's wrong. And they're like, we're going to grind you into dust. We're going to sue you. We're going to harass you. We're going to persecute you. And as Reese rightly said, there's an army of website designers. There's an army of bakeries out there. She was chosen, this woman, Laurie Smith, because she was a Christian. See, and that's another thing. Who wants to start a marriage off like this? Let's go to the one person that we know will disagree with us to humiliate them. As you put it, involuntary servitude. To force them to do something just to rub their nose in it. Like, what kind of sick people are they?
How the lawyers could have possibly missed it.
Oh, I agree. I look, to me, the expression all's well that ends well. So you're right, Peter, but at least the justices made the right decision. And they struck a big victory, really a major victory for free speech and pluralism and the First Amendment. So I say amen. Peter, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Is it Mira? Myra? Mira. Mira in Brighton. Thanks for holding, Mira, and welcome.
Hi. Actually, a lot of the previous callers made my point. I was talking about the bakery.
Yes.
And the whole thing. I think that they should have the right to say, to say no or refuse. If they don't want previous service, like you said before, no shoes, shirt, no service. I'm sorry, I'm at work.
No, that's what I was thinking. Speaking of bakery, it looks like the little one there is hungry.
No, she just. I work in a daycare, and she just came in a little upset, but it's fine. No, so I think that you have a right to have a Jewish establishment, as one of your earlier callers. If you go into a place and they're not going to serve you a bacon, egg, and cheese because of the Muslim or they're Jewish, and we don't serve that. That goes against our religion. We're not going to serve you in this restaurant. We're not going to serve you something that you might get in another restaurant. If there are limits to what is available in certain places, and you should ask, is it okay if other people say, well, we won't serve Republicans? So how are you going to know? Someone walks into your establishment, well, we don't serve Republicans. How are you going to know by looking at somebody what their political
their political views are. No, that's a very, Myra, that's a very, Mira, forgive me. Mira, that's a very, very good point. That's an excellent point. But, look, again, this is what the justices were trying to get at. And this is lost on people like Dan or Bill in Sudbury or Ben in North Andover. Their argument is, don't think you'll always be in cultural power. The tide will turn. It always does. There's a pendulum. And so everybody has the right to dissent. So, in other words, one day it'll be you. And maybe you'll be forced to bake something or say something or produce a website that you don't believe in. And you have that right. And the point the justices are making is we are such a big, diverse country that the only way we can really survive, in fact, Gorsuch is very powerful on this. He goes, we must have tolerance, real tolerance. So the answer to anything that you may find disagreeable is to be tolerant and to have more speech, not less speech, more tolerance, not less tolerance. So if you really find this website designer objectionable because they won't do a website for your same-sex wedding, just go to another one. There's an army of them. Or, as you're right. And by the way, I appreciate their honesty. Like, a Muslim baker or a Jewish baker, they could just say, well, we don't have bacon. Right? You go, can I have a bacon, egg, and cheese? Well, the cop-out would be, right, they would just say, I'm sorry, we don't have bacon. And you could go, well, why? It's a long story. We just don't have bacon. No, they're honest. I appreciate that. They go, hey, look, we could get the bacon, but we just don't do bacon. It goes against our religious beliefs. Okay. Now, to be honest, I don't love bacon that much, Mira. I mean, some people do. I don't. To go across the street like Reese did and to get a bacon, egg, and cheese there, I would just say, okay, give me an egg and cheese, forget the bacon. It's okay. But that's me. But I don't understand the kind of person that would say, here, let's leave the gay issue or the same-sex marriage issue off the table. I'm going to humiliate this Muslim baker. You're going to make me a bacon, egg, and cheese. Well, I'm sorry, I'm Muslim. We don't do bacon. Well, I'm going to force you to. But you're asking me to violate my religious beliefs. You know how we Muslims feel about this. No, I'm going to sue you. I'm going to boycott you. I'm going to protest you. I'm going to persecute you. I'm going to fine you. I'm going to have the government come in and shut your business down and destroy your livelihood, if need be. Put that bacon, that slice of bacon, in that sandwich. Like, what kind of a sicko, how intolerant do you have to be to do that? I mean, Mira, am I wrong?
No, I agree with you. I think that there are many establishments, there are many website designers, there's many bakers, there are many stores. If one says no, find another one. The fact that there was litigation in the first place makes no sense to me.
Amen.
Makes absolutely no sense.
I couldn't agree with you more. Mira, thank you so much for that call. Like, I agree with Reese. It's like we're all losing our collective minds. I've never seen such intolerance. And it's just, and I'm telling you, they think it's helping them. It's not. It's the opposite. It's alienating people. It's angering people. It's embittering people. Because, we're not talking tolerance now. This is out and out coercion. That's what this is. This is state coercion. So again, I use the Jewish baker or the Muslim baker. I could use many other examples. So I'm going to go out of my way and destroy a business because I want to show to them that they have to put a piece of bacon in a sandwich or build a website. And I know it violates their religious beliefs. I know what their religious beliefs are, but I'm going to do it anyway. Good luck with that marriage. That's all I have to say. That's how you want to consecrate your marriage. Good luck. Good luck. Now, let me throw one other log on the fire. 617-266-6868 is the number. Bouncing off of Dan in Dedham. What was his response? Because this is what MSNBC is peddling, and this is CNN, and Biden and the regime. Oh, public accommodation. Oh, suddenly then, if you allow this, then people will be denied service just because they're gay, just because they're black, just because they're whatever. So, which is not true. And the Supreme Court justices were adamant on that point. Okay? But no. This is how they're interpreting it. So I talked about that, that Sopranos actor, Mike Imperioli, saying, oh, from now on, we're not going to allow conservatives or Trump supporters to buy DVDs of The Sopranos or to watch The Sopranos. Okay, how you police that, I don't know. You're a moron. But some of them are escalating. So, PJ Media. Sandy was the one who sent me this story yesterday, and it's a doozy. So, in reaction to the Supreme Court decision, there is now a push among liberals, business owners in particular. Listen now to this. Lefties begin denying service to Trump supporters. So it's by Lincoln Brown in PJ Media. And so this Friday's decision in 303 Creative v. Ellenis, they're saying because of this, the mainstream media and the Democrats are now pushing this agenda that because of this decision, people can be denied service, which is not true. And so what you now see are liberals are saying, okay, if this is how you guys are going to play it, here's how we're going to play it. So you are now seeing signs put up in businesses all over the country. And this is what they're writing on businesses. Quote, since the Supreme Court has ruled that businesses can discriminate, and then it's all in caps, bold, and underlined. No sales to Trump supporters. And then beside it is another sign with the LGBTQ transgender flag. We only sell to churches that fly a pride flag. Now, you're seeing this proliferate in liberal businesses or by liberal business owners all across the entire country. So they're now putting up signs on their businesses. I'm sure many of you have already seen them because I'm starting to notice them as well, that in the wake of this decision, to show how stupid they are, they're like, well, now we deny service to Trump supporters. We won't sell to you. We won't do anything to you or let you buy anything. Anything. Now, remember we had that case, this was before this decision, but I think last week or the week before, a nice woman called up about a New Hampshire bakery, and in Exeter, and that New Hampshire bakery, when her husband walked in with her with a Trump cap, a MAGA cap, said, we don't serve your kind here, and she left. Now, what did we do? Did we say public accommodation was violated? Sue, take them to court, bankrupt them. What did we say? Give us the name and address of the bakery. Don't go there. Don't go there. If they want to discriminate against us, good. I don't want to give you my money anyway. So to all these liberal businesses that are saying, well, we won't serve Trump supporters, good. You know why? Because that's the surest, quickest way to go out of business. Genius. They should have thought of this. If you're going to alienate at least half of your potential customers, and by the way, it's the half that works and pays taxes and has a job, I got news for you. You're going to go bankrupt. So go ahead. Like, really, I'm serious. Go ahead. Put up all your signs, because I won't go in. I mean, not that they can tell. I don't know how they're going to ask you how you voted. Like, what are they going to do? Look you up on a computer database? Like, seriously. Okay, Jeff Kuhner. Hold on. Whoa. Hold on. But I just want to order some muffins. Relax. Kuhner. Are you that Jeff Kuhner? Yeah. Oh, no muffins for you. So what are they going to do? Vet everybody? Do a Google search? What are they going to do? Check how they're politically registered? Like, do you see how crazy this is? But let that go. Just let that go. I walk up to a business. All I got to do is see the sign. Oh, no Trump supporters? No conservatives? No, we don't serve Catholics. We don't serve Christians. We don't serve patriots. Bye. And honestly, thank you. I didn't know the person was a crazy left-winger. I wouldn't want to give that person my money anyway. Like that, my honest response is, if you're going to discriminate against us, I'm not taking you to court. I'm taking my money and going elsewhere. And in a way, I'm happy you told me what you really think of me. This way, I'm not putting money in your pocket. So I would rather go to another business that appreciates me, my money, how hard I work for my money, and wants to actually really serve me. So, to all these liberals out there, go ahead, put up the signs. I'm not asking you, I'm begging you. So all of you can start going out of business. This is not a business plan that will succeed, believe me. So, my answer to this is not, let's go to court. I want the Department of Justice involved. I want to file civil rights lawsuits. No. You want to put up a sign, no conservatives served? No Trump supporters will be served? Thank you. Now I know you're a crazy leftist, a political bigot. That's what you are. And I don't want to give you my money. I had no idea before. Now I know. Thank you. I'll go to another business. Agree, disagree. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me ask you 2 questions, double-barreled. 1, have you ever been discriminated against for your political views? In other words, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, remember what they did to her? She went to a restaurant with her spouse and her family, and they kicked her out solely because she worked in the Trump administration and she was a conservative. Have you ever been discriminated against or denied service because you're a conservative or a Trump supporter? 2, when you see these signs, and have you seen one? And when you see it, do you go in? Do you just play dumb and, get served and just pay? Or like me, do you just say thank you and I'll take my business elsewhere? Should we sue, or should we just boycott those businesses that don't want to serve conservatives? 617-266-6868 is the number. Deborah in Boston. Thanks for holding, Deborah, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
I just actually wanted to call you out on something real quickly. And I think I said this to you before, that we need to be very careful with our language because we can sound like extremists on the other side. And anyway, you said it. You've said it a few times before. Fine, we won't go into your businesses. We're the ones. Why would you say that? As if everybody who's a Democrat is on welfare? Because some of the smartest people I know, or, whatever, most educated, doctors and psychiatrists and whatever, they're very high society, very wealthy, and they're Democrats. It's very frustrating. I'm on your side. I agree with, I just want people to kind of live in harmony and, anyway, very frustrating. You have to be careful with your language. That's all.
Deborah, look, again, I respectfully disagree. When I say we work and we pay taxes, I'm not saying we're the only ones who work and we pay taxes. I know there are a lot of Hollywood lefties, there are a lot of professionals, a lot of people in the media, a lot of government bureaucrats. Of course they work, of course they make good money, and of course they pay taxes as well. But let's be honest. There's a massive welfare class and an illegal immigrant class that vote for the Democrats. There's no question about it. Number one. Number 2, the great middle and working class tends to be overwhelmingly Republican. So my argument is, if you're going to start discriminating against people based on their political views, well, you're discriminating against middle working class people. Well, they've got purchasing power. They've got money. You're going to go bankrupt. That may offend your liberal friends, but I'm sorry, it's true. Am I wrong? You know what? Hold on. Deborah, we're up against it. Please hang on. I want to go right back to Deborah, take more of your calls. 617-266-6868. Don't touch that dial. 617-266-6868 is the number. Deborah in Boston. Thanks. The what? Yeah, that's what I mean. We're going back to Deborah, right? Yeah, that's what I'm doing, Mike. All right, let's yeah, we are going back to Deborah, right, Mike? Okay, all right. Mike says it's okay. Thanks, Mike. Deborah in Boston. You were saying that I got to watch how I speak, that liberals pay taxes as well, and that this is making us seem more extreme, or makes me seem more of an extremist, and it doesn't do our side any good. Deborah, please pick up where you left off.
I mean, that's all I was saying. When you said we are the ones who pay the taxes, you were implying that everybody on the left is a welfare bum. So sometimes I think you're completely blind. The right has a bunch of fat idiots as well. I've been to Republican fundraisers. I'm definitely a conservative. Okay. I believe in the Constitution, and I don't know why we lose our way so badly. Really, you are free to believe whatever you want, however you want to worship God, in whatever ridiculous way or not at all. Live your life however you want. Just don't hurt other people and steal their stuff. Isn't that essentially the Constitution?
Yes.
Then why do we get so lost?
Well, because honestly, Deborah, I think freedom is hard. Freedom
is hard.
Yeah, freedom is rare.
Okay, Jeff, can I say something really that's going to offend 9% of your audience?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I've been to Republican fundraisers, and I've been like the only person who's like, sorry to say it, but fit and thin. Okay, I'm over 50 and I look great in a bikini. Go ahead and call me a bitch or whatever. That's when I see somebody who weighs, 300 pounds, they don't have personal responsibility. They can't control themselves. And they're not smart enough to find the right way to be healthy. And guess what? They're going to be a drain on our health system if they're not already. So they're socialists, just like Democrats. They're sitting around drinking soda, eating processed food, and then they're just expecting all the rest of us, all our tax-paying dollars, to pay for their fat ass. How's that?
Well, Deborah, I mean, if they have private health insurance, right, no one's paying for anything. They're paying for their own health insurance. And, yeah, you're fine. I agree with you. I mean, hey, I'm one of them. I drink soda, I eat processed food, and I'm sure you find me overweight. So I'm certainly not as fit and thin as you. I guarantee you, Deborah. So I'm probably one of those guys you'd be looking at and saying, geez, stop trashing your body for God's sakes. But Deborah, the point is this, it's their money. In other words, the difference between us and the socialists is, you're on welfare, you're spending our money. When you're with EBT or with, when you're going out with food stamps, that's our money. So if you want to, how you want to spend your money is your business. So if you want, if the Kuhner man wants to have Diet Coke all day, that's my right. I work for my money. How I want to spend my money is my business. Same thing like you, Deborah. You want to work out, you want to eat healthy, that's your right. But once I start getting on, once I'm using government money, then I'm sorry. No, you don't have the right to just, or you're an able-bodied person, like many are, and you're just sitting at home doing nothing, watching Jerry Springer and collecting a welfare check. I mean, to me, say what you want about those fat, overweight Republicans. At least they're working, being productive, contributing to society, unlike, say, the Bills in Sudbury and the Bens in North Andover, who just are staying at home and collecting a welfare check.
Just so that you are going to be a burden on the system if you're not right now. And I'm sorry, but even if you have private health insurance, it's still a collective. I pay in tons of money, right, for all of that, and I'm perfectly healthy.
Deborah, you're breaking up. Deborah, sorry, you broke up on me. So you're saying I'm a drain on the system?
Well, if you're drinking Diet Coke, it causes cancer and stuff in lab rats.
Okay, but I mean, here, think about it this way. If I get cancer, I'm less of a drain on the system. Why? I'm not going to be collecting Social Security. I won't be on Medicare. I won't, I'm not going to be 65 years old. Like, if it's as bad as everybody says it is. So I'm lucky if I make it to, say, 60 or 62. And I'm paying for my own private health insurance and paying for my own medical bills. So how am I a drain on you, Deborah?
Maybe you're the exception. Maybe you'll drop dead at whatever age. How many people, Republicans included, are on Medicare when they retire? And they're taking a pill for this and a pill for that, and then they got to get surgery. If you keep yourself healthy, you're not going to be a burden on society.
Yeah, but Deborah, to be fair to these Republicans, they've been paying into that system for 45 years, 40, 45, 50 years. I mean, they've been working hard and paying into that system. Don't they have the right to use it?
Yeah, well, sure, go ahead and use it, but stop making fun of Democrats for using it.
Well, yeah, but we're not blaming them for using Social Security and Medicare. It's the Section 8 housing, the EBT, the welfare, the food stamps, the everything else, the subsidized heating, and especially to illegals on top of it all. That's the criticism, Deborah. Thank you very, very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, you can text us 70470. This is from 917. Jeff, if a liberal business refuses to serve conservatives, then let's not do business there. In addition, spread the word about what that business is doing. Let's see how they like that. That's my point. Instead of sue and let's go to the Department of Justice and, take this to the Supreme Court. No, if all these moonbats in the wake of this 303 creative Supreme Court decision, if they want to be this self-destructive, if they want to bankrupt themselves, go ahead. Keep putting up your signs. We don't serve Trump supporters. Okay. Thank you. I'll go somewhere else. Oh, so the owner of this was a moonbat. I never knew. Wow. Thank you for telling me. I don't want to put money in your pocket. There's a lot of choices out there. That's why I support the free market. In a free market economy, you have nothing but consumer choice. You, the consumer, have the money and you have the power. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I think this is the email that it's game, set, and match. This is the intellectual, moral checkmate of Dan and Dedham and all these moonbats that are texting, emailing, maybe trying to call in, I don't know, about how outrageous the Supreme Court decision is. How dare they protect or defend that website owner's right to refuse making a website for a same-sex wedding. Jeff, go to a bakery owned by somebody from the Rainbow Coalition and then have them inscribe the following, say, on a cake. There are only two genders. God forbids homosexuality. Now, there's some other examples. I don't want to say it on the air because it could get me in trouble. And see how far you get in their shop. The reason they object to the Supreme Court ruling is because they are bullies. They get off on it. Give them an inch, and they will outlaw rulers. Completely right. Completely right. Go to a gay bakery and say, I want you to write down there are only two genders. Or, you know what? God forbids homosexuality. Or whatever it is. And you see how fast they'll tell you, get lost. Nah, we're not baking you that cake. We're just not going to do it. Or ask a gay bakery to make a cake for the Westboro Baptist Church. just walk in and say, "Nah, this is in celebration of the Westboro Baptist Church. I want you to write that down in the cake." You know what they would say? They'd give you the middle finger and tell you to get lost. And they have every right to do it. Exactly as the Supreme Court said. You're going to coerce people to say speech or to do something they don't want to do that violates their fundamental conscience rights? Like, what are you, insane? But that's where we are. And I think the emailer, Robert, is completely right. They would never allow a gay baker, if that gay baker didn't want to write this, they would never allow the gay baker to be forced into writing something like this on a cake. Of course not. Because ultimately they're thugs and bullies. That's what they've now been exposed as. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Chuck in Hudson. Thanks for holding, Chuck, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. I had to call because I think you got it right, but for all the wrong reasons. What you put on the cake is not your free speech. You're actually being forced into servitude for writing what somebody else says to write. So therefore, I think your argument is wrong, and that guy down in Dedham is right for being fearful of where it's going to go to, because it will actually show that it's really about servitude, because the public accommodation laws, the accommodation laws are actually wrong, because these good, decent, kind people don't even know how fascist they are. Because when I go in, I'm making them actually go through the steps of serving me, and that is servitude. So the point is that, he's right, and that it logically leads to people waking up and realizing that we're telling people what to do and how to do it, and that's not freedom.
Oh, you're dead on. No, on that I completely agree with you. No, I think where the Supreme Court I'm just describing the decision. They're saying this is coerced speech, like to be really accurate. So in other words, I'm forcing you, Chuck, to write something on a cake that you don't believe in. And free speech is also the right not to say anything. See, that's what the justices are saying. So, and again, they're right. And look, and Chuck, it's not just that I want to get into the weeds of the 13th Amendment or the First Amendment, because I cherish all the amendments, especially the Bill of Rights, as you know. But it's to me, it's something bigger and more important. We're a continent. Yes, we're a country. Yes, we're a republic. There's no question. But we're a continent. Let's be honest. With 330 million people, very diverse, different skin colors, different genders, different sexual orientation, different religious beliefs, different creeds, very diverse regionally. I mean, we're a continent. We're the size of Europe. Now, if we're going to get along and not tear each other apart, this is where I'm with the justices 1,000%. We have to learn to be tolerant. I mean, in the true Jeffersonian sense. We have to learn to be tolerant. And what is frightening to me and chilling about the radical left is that now they want to impose uniformity, coercion, censorship, and ultimately, as you put it, servitude. They want to force people to believe and think and say and do things they don't want to think, believe, say, or do. And I'm sorry, I'm just calling it the way I see it. It's communism, it's fascism, it's tyranny.
Those things, but you keep bringing up the example of, not serving conservatives. Well, the fact of the matter is the groups that you keep bringing up are not classified as protected classes. Yes. And because of that, that's why it is okay to discriminate.
No, you're right. No, you're right. It's just, look, I don't believe in protected classes. To me, that defies to me, it's unconstitutional. It's illiberal. How can you have what you're saying is certain classes have more rights than others. Certain groups of people have more rights than others. And that violates equality under the law and equality of citizenship. To me, it's antithetical to a republic. So I'm against protected classes. And no, look, I don't, and it's also, yeah, that's right. It's in favor of discrimination. They're basically saying we can discriminate on behalf of certain groups against others. So I think it's an abomination. No, I'm not saying it's okay to discriminate. What I'm just saying is this. Liberals are now reacting this way, and they're lashing out at conservatives. And they're saying, well, we're going to own Republicans. We're going to own people like Chuck and people like Jeff, like me, the Kuhner man. So we're going to come out with these signs and say, we don't serve Trump supporters. And my honest response is, good. Good. I don't want to give you my money. If this is how you really feel, great. And I'm telling you, there are tens of millions of people like us, and we'll take our money elsewhere. And you know what will happen to them? They'll go kaput. Bye-bye. They'll go bankrupt. So if they're that dumb, then go ahead. Put up your signs. Go ahead. Put them up. My answer is, I agree to your terms. Bye. I mean, let me ask you, Chuck, would you want to go, let's say, to a restaurant or take your pick, I don't care, a bakery, whatever it is, and they're telling you to your face they can't stand you, they hate you so much they don't even want to serve you? I mean, I'm like, hey, you're not the only game in town. I'll take my money elsewhere. Chuck, is that me, or would you do the same thing?
Absolutely. Just like if I was a wedding guest and I knew what they went through to get their cake, I wouldn't eat that cake. I mean, the thing is that, people, they get crazy. They mean well. They're good, decent, kind, thoughtful. But what they fail to realize is what fascists they are. They tell me, well, you telling me then, Chuck, that it's okay not to serve blacks? And I can not take care of someone for that. And I tell them, I didn't say it was okay, but I will defend your right not to do so.
Well, you see, Chuck, and this is what would happen. If I saw an establishment that said we refuse to serve blacks, you know what I would do? I would boycott that establishment. And so would 95% of the American people. And they would go under. So I keep saying this, like, don't you want, I say this to people all the time. If the owner is a genuine, true white supremacist, would you rather that be hidden and you make that person rich? Say they own a good restaurant and it's packed every night. You're like, well, you're just making this KKK guy wealthy. But if he comes out and says, oh, we don't serve blacks, you're like, oh, I'll take my money elsewhere. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. Jack in Tewksbury. Thanks for holding, Jack, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning.
Hi.
If Deborah is one of those people that can smell the Trump support in a Walmart. That's the impression I got from her. Because she did nothing but insult Republicans on being all out of shape, being fat. All you said, Jeff, was, you know what? We're going to choose to take our money elsewhere, and the majority of the Democratic voters I would say a great majority of the Democratic voters are either on welfare or support some kind of, give to the people, and they're convinced to do it, help out the poor man, even though I've been to many places where I've seen people pull out food stamp cards and get their meals and fill up their carts, and they drive way better cars than I do, and their nails look way better than my wife's, and I pay for my wife's nails. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, Jack, and the thing is, I'm not much to look at. I don't, she says she looks great in a bikini. I don't look good in a Speedo. I'll be honest.
You're I. You know what I mean? And Jeff, and I guarantee you, Jeff, she goes to the cheese shop like Elizabeth Warren.
But it's like, like all Republicans or most Republicans are fat and, they're all, we're all a bunch of fat slobs. Like, what did we do? Okay, even if we are, which is not true, but even if we are, we work for our money. It's our money. How we choose to spend it. Well, who are we hurting? We pay our own bills. We pay our own health insurance. How are we suddenly the bad guys? And you're right. Look, notice these libs. They're all like, oh, we don't want to serve conservatives. And what's our response? Okay, we'll take our business elsewhere. Notice, we're not suing them, but all they love to do is sue us. Have you noticed that, Jack?
Yep, it's all they want to, because they look for it, Jeff. They look for a fight, and then take it through the courts and try to drag us through the mud. You know what I mean? All in the name of tolerance. Don't forget, this is all about tolerance.
It's all about tolerance.
It's all about tolerance, Jeff. Isn't it funny?
Jack,
the more we try to stay away from them, the more they throw their tolerance out.
No, I know. It's true. We're just like, okay, like, look, Jack, it's like, Jack, I hate you. No, I mean, I really hate you, Jack. Jack, I can't stand you. And you're like, okay, I'm just going to go elsewhere. Why are you going elsewhere, Jack? No, I'm forcing you. You got to be with me, Jack. I'm like, but you just told me you hate me. I mean, that's how they are. Like, it's all in the name of tolerance, but they can't let us go, Jack. Have you noticed that?
Then you follow me and tell me more, and I try to walk away. Okay, you win. I'm leaving. You follow me out the door. You know what I mean? And then you want me to get in your face. Oh, it's unbelievable. But quickly, Jeff, the only part of her conservatism is what she puts on her plate. That's it. They should consider herself a conservative because she only eats certain things. That doesn't make her a conservative.
Jack, thank you very, very much for that call. 617-266-6868. This is a really, really good text from 617. Jeff, there is no fun for liberals by shopping elsewhere. The real joy they get is by putting others they disagree with out of business. They would rather sue someone for not following along, that's Jack's point, than simply take their business elsewhere. Bingo. Bingo. Like, really, let's go back to let's bring it full circle. If you were at that wedding of this same-sex couple, and you're eating the cake, and you found out, yeah, we sued that person into making that cake for us, would you want to eat that cake? Like, you'd be like, are you serious? Like, of all the bakers out there, you had to go single out this one? And, violate her religious rights and conscience and force her on upon the point of a massive lawsuit and bankrupting this person to make you a cake so you can rub her nose in it? Yeah, I don't think I want to eat this cake. I mean, that would be me. But no, that's not how liberals think. Jane in West Bridgewater. Thanks for holding, Jane, and welcome.
Oh, hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I want to thank you for everything you do because I think it's fantastic to bring all this to light. And you have a lot of courage. But I just wanted to kind of jump back. And yes. I lost my job because of the mandate. And, I was told that I didn't articulate my religious beliefs. That just really, I'm a Catholic, but I didn't say that I was Catholic. I just said, due to my seriously held religious belief, that wasn't good enough. That wasn't good enough. One of my colleagues wrote a 4-page dissertation about, his views. He actually kept his job, was given an accommodation. I lost mine. So anyway, I just think this decision by the court is great. And I'm just wondering what the implications will be for people that have lost their jobs because of
that's the next step. No, you're dead on, Jane. And again, that goes to a different ruling because people are tuning in a bit later. But this judge that has now ruled that the Biden regime has engaged in the greatest massive attack on free speech in United States history and saying exactly people like you lost your jobs. People like you were censored. People like you were suppressed. You were censored. You were discriminated against. And many people like you lost your job. And the Biden regime has been caught red-handed, ordering big tech, ordering them to take down posts and tweets because they went against the government narrative. So to me, this ruling now, it's going to go to the Supreme Court because the Biden regime is going to, they're going to appeal this. Once it goes to the Supreme Court, Jane, my prediction is 6-3. The court is going to uphold the judge's ruling. Biden is going to get the biggest rebuke of his entire presidency. and it's going to open the floodgates for lawsuits. And honestly, Jane, I hope people like you get a really good lawyer and you sue your former employer for not just wages lost, but for damages they should be made to pay. I gotta go. Bye.